Today, after a long time, we have come to this, and I will be very polite and courteous because I have been very polite and tremendously courteous person. That's why you hear a lot of blames or people talk about all these things because generosity, courtesy, politeness, elegance, all these things have been like the basic fabric of myself. So that's why so many criticism, and I listen to a lot of criticism. Why it is not smart enough to talk, and that's why I will talk about it. This talk is not smart enough. Why you listen to all these criticisms? If you listen to, because talks and conversations. Some people are very good with talks and conversations. When it comes to dialogue writing, scene writing, screenplay writing, screenwriting, it's the art, craft and art. The art of writing a dialogue, the art of writing a scene. And discussions we do, one discussions can elevate other discussions, one discussion can provoke other discussions. And this talks and conversations, some people are very good with it. And we have always done that. But the thing is now, sometimes we don't say it explicitly, but how you put all these things together and tell the story, make the movie cinematic language. You can adapt a novel, you can adapt a story, you can write a new story, you can tell something very innovative. You are not looking at the structure, rather, you are going for something else. But ultimately, it's the experience, it's the cinematic language. Visually, you're having an experience, cinematic storytelling, how you're using the camera, story, and everything, words, lack of words, everything. But talks and conversations, some people are very good with that. Okay, discussions are okay, but when it comes to cinema, screenwriting, and script writing, you have to respect certain things. And how all these things fit together in that stipulated timeline. So, that is one thing we need to talk about. And sometimes when you are shooting a lot of movies together, you may lose objectivity. So once in a while, you should look at subjective things, objective things, so that you are telling the story in a better way, serving the story in a better way. Because ultimately, we have all the techniques: editing, cinematography, storytelling, all these things we have. How we are arranging the things together, that is also tremendously important, shaping the narrative. But you are boggled by a lot of criticism, you're boggled by bothered by sometimes a lot of unnecessary criticism that can hamper the storytelling, that can take you away from the storytelling you wanted to tell, both the commercial aspect as well as the storytelling aspect, because that is what you do with experience. How you blend these things together. Sometimes when you are giving priority to the other thing, and when you are telling the story in the right way for this particular reason. All these things we need. But audience should be challenged, as I say, because not every audience is dumb. So that's why, in terms of ideas, in terms of their execution, in terms of storytelling, in terms of using the visual language, framing, composition, how you are moving the camera, in all these ways, we have done a lot of innovation over the years in cinema. Sometimes we don't talk about it because we don't have to talk about it. We are doing the things and we are making a statement through the movie, or maybe we are just making the movie, telling the story. We don't feel the need to talk about it. People who see that, they understand, and that is a great thing. When we go for discussions, some people go for discussions, some people go for the movie itself, and they learn a lot from it. But the work itself, it's a great thing. Photographs, when fashion designers, photographers are creating photographs and dresses, costumes, all these things are part of it. And character and personality, one thing, because you will hear a lot of criticism about me, about my character and personality. So courtesy, character, personality, you will hear a lot of criticism because it's a lot of fun to criticize about all these things. But don't think about all these things too much, because stupid people have a lot to tell, and it is in the telling they enjoy. The telling, they are enjoying. What they are telling, sometimes they are nagging, sometimes they are telling the same things again and again. You are understanding, they are not understanding. You are understanding that they are not understanding, but they are not understanding. So it is in the telling they are enjoying a lot of things. But don't think about all these things too much. So let's focus on the work. Sometimes it's a lifelong pursuit, pretending to be smart. And people who don't talk much about it, they are, you know, provoked, so that sometimes poked, so that they talk about it more. All these things are there. Respect for seniors, I have always had this, and that is the reason some people, talk about me also. And you will hear a lot of criticism regarding that as well. And you already know, as I have mentioned. Now, influences. Another criticism you will hear: what is my influence? Obviously, classic Hollywood, old Hollywood, and Hollywood in general, artistic movies, art house movies, everything, movies in general, whatever you think of, those have been my influences, not the bullshit stuff or these things people talk about. That can be influences of other people, and they are imposing that thing on me. So that's why you need to understand, you don't need to question, you have to understand when you are looking at a people. It's like taking an interview, it's like conversing with people, it's like, understanding that person when you're having a conversation. And one thing I must mention, I should have started with the guests, this thing. But anyway, I started with some videos. You have the basics of filmmaking and something we can relate to. But in a way, I should have started with the guests straight away, so that we could have, done the discussions. But influences, that can be one thing people can talk about it. What is his influence? Does he understand movies? Where did he learn all these things? And what is his preference? All these things. But when you understand a human being, when you understand the stocks, the essence of the stocks, the importance of the stocks, both in terms of technique, both in terms of essence, both in terms of, the content, or the significance it is having in terms of everything, in terms of filmmaking, in terms of business, in terms of production, in terms of technique, in terms of craft, art, whatever it is. Sometimes art, we have a lot of negative connotation with the word art, because the moment people say art, people have a lot of negative connotations. We are not talking about that, because writing, art; fashion design, you have art; costumes, you have art; set decoration, you have art; cinematography, you have art. And it is the pursuit you have, to excel yourself in a better way. You are giving more. So that's the thing I will talk about today, and you should do that. And that is the reason we are making films, that is the reason we are telling stories, that is the reason we are coming up with different ideas and how we are going to execute those ideas. Not only one script, we are coming with one script and that is done. Not like that. We are rehearsing, we are talking to the actors, we are each day of the shoot, we are thinking about all these things. Sometimes people are not thinking about that. Sometimes something happened, happy accidents as we call it, and you think about doing the scene in a different way, talking to the actors in a different way, getting the acting out of the actor in a different way. So all these things are part of basic professionalism. So professionalism we do understand, and we talk about all these things. Moving on, a very important thing. Another thing, I move on sometimes because, the baggage I don't need, the unnecessary things I don't need. So moving on is a very easier thing for me, and I like to do that because you have important things in your life you can prioritize. But people will criticize that I don't move on. People will criticize with the excess. They understand the excess. They understand the relationships. These are the things, petty things people will talk about. Rubbish, mostly rubbish. So don't think about all these things much. Moving on, you if you let someone go, that person will come back. All these things. People will do all this criticism. You are the one. I am not the one. All these things. But as an actor, it's a lot easier. As a director, you have more responsibility. As a writer, you have more responsibility. You are thinking about the entire project. You are thinking about the entire thing. Even the other people, craftsmen, the technical people, cinematographers, set decorators, you all have responsibilities because you are looking at the entire storyline, how the set will be covering the entire storyline, how the cinematography will be done throughout the movie, all these things. Sometimes actors, not professional actors, we have our candid moments, we have our moments as actors, but respect for this profession, respect for this craft, respect for this art, respect for this business, we don't explicitly talk because that is the basic thing we do, you know. So whatever we are doing, that is telling the story in a better way, and we are also feeling good to give the good performance. So that's why we don't talk about it. But one discussion can help you, you know, walk down the memory lane, you know, spark other discussions. That's why we need discussions. Sometimes it is shaping people, people who didn't go to film school, people who didn't go to other places. They are looking at movies, you know, they are having a lot of respect for cinema, and they learn to know more about cinema, you know. So discussions can be very educational. That is also something very basic, we don't talk about it because discussions we are having educational, and that is the thing we do. So it is not like you are limiting the discussions, you are limiting the talks, you are limiting the discussions about film. So that fear, one thing you can do with fear, one thing you can do with open to new experiences. So, in terms of acting, in terms of relationship, in terms of discussions, all these things, when people are talking about it, oh, don't do this, don't do. Even also, I will mention one thing: using the slang, creative use of slang. That is also part of, you know, the society, colloquial language, society, social issues. When you are telling the story, and that is the reason you are using the slang. If you become judgmental about it, that I won't use slang, you are not serving the story. So sometimes you have to think about it, you know, director's hat, actor's hat. When you're using the slang, it is right for the situation, it is telling the story, it is doing the acting properly. So we don't think about all these things, and so many things we don't talk about. That's where we can connect as filmmakers, as human beings, you know. And stories, ideas, not petty things. There will be someone to talk about these things, and we can do more work. And innovation in storytelling in every way, the cinematic language, so talks and conversations we are doing. And if I mention it in the first place, and if I mention it now in between, if I have mentioned something, people will do criticism regarding that as well. But talks and conversation, those things are there, cinema is there, and all these things are together happening that thing. And you know, we feel like doing more discussions to talk about the movie. We feel like making the movie, whatever is required for this particular thing. But cinema, the art of writing dialogue, the art of writing a scene, the art of telling a story, all these things we need to respect more, because cinema is more than all these things. Talks are there, discussions are there, the showbiz is there, fashion design, you know, red carpet and how you're walking, all these things are there. Because one thing I want to mention today, each thing has a role to play. Fashion designers, photographers, costume designers, makeup, and this is how the industry works, you know. You have these events, you have glitz and glam, you have storytelling, you have cinema, you have the theatrical experience, you have the screen, you have the set where you are dealing with the cast and crew. All these things together are running the ecosystem, shaping the ecosystem, business, money, in terms of work, everything is happening, professionalism. So we don't need to think about that. Oh, we are not looking at fashion. Oh, we are not looking at glitz and glam. We are not looking at movies. So superficial things, some people will always criticize regarding that. Fans, reporters, you know, press, critics, shallow critics mostly. They will always talk about superficial things. But when we talk about this talks, you know, you can relate to it. And that is the fun part. That is the reason we do all these things. Sometimes if you cannot eloquently express through words, you cannot express through words eloquently, there can be other ways, and that's not a bad thing. That's why we have art, different kinds of art, you know, you have, so that you can express, you tell a story visually. Cinematographers, some, you know, cinematographers cannot eloquently express what they are doing, but when it comes to camera work, they are excelling in that. So those are the things, you know, the basic things, we don't think about that. And it should not be like gravity. It should not be like gravity. You're starting and you have to fall down. There are people like that, but you don't have to be that. So always the next film can be a bigger challenge. The next film can be, the next idea can be a bigger challenge. The next idea can be a greater innovation. So that's the reason we do all these things. You know, we are challenging ourselves in terms of storytelling, ideas, execution, how we are selecting the cast and crew. We are always challenging ourselves because that is the fun part, The problem will come, we will solve the problems together, we will tell a story in a better way. We are all enjoying the process, we are all enjoying the work and the output. And vital few, trivial many. Problems will come, things will come, criticism will come, but vital few, trivial many. We are not focusing much on the things. People are there. You can delegate it to other people, and you can focus on something that is more significant. But the thing is, and also you don't want to impart knowledge to just anyone. That is also one thing. And many people try to show a lot, but if you understand, you don't think about talking about that much. But again, it's in the telling, so people will do that. And also, when you are an actor, an artist, you have a lot to play with. It's fun, and role play all the time can be a burden. For some people, they have to fit to certain roles. They have to do a lot of role play all their lives. That's why they are not doing much work. That's why they are not doing, you know, not even talking in a proper way because they are always fitting into some roles. So that role play can be all the time a burden. But if you are freeing yourself from that, you can be a better actor. You can have better experiences in life. You can write stories. You can do greater works of art, sometimes business ventures, and all these things, part of life, exploring life. But also, one thing, do you want to go one step further? Do you really need it? One more take, do you really need it? One more cut in terms of editing, do you need it? Adjustments, do you need it? Sometimes rearranging of the shots in terms of editing, do you already need it? Now it comes from that passion and drive, and nobody has to tell us that, and we are telling people in different ways. So should we do that or should we don't? It comes from that passion and drive. Nobody has to tell us that. Right, so we are the one telling people in different ways. It can be through the story, it can be through the movies, it can be through the talks, whatever it is. But we don't think about it much because we are telling people in different ways, so we don't think about it much. Now, the thing is, the criticism will come from where? Few things, because the way I talked, the way I maybe the content of the talk, you already get it, but it's the arrangement of the talks. People will do permutation combinations and you will listen to the criticisms. But that will cater to certain audiences. And when you think about all these things much, you are not working on your craft or art or your technique. And also glitz and glam. So again, um, you can have better experiences in life. You can do a lot of stretching yourself sometimes, innovation, uh, uh, doing something different, or maybe you are something you have inside you haven't explored yourself, and suddenly you are thinking, motivated by things, you are thinking to do something you haven't done for a long time, or maybe something new. But ultimately, how you're telling the story, how all this talks, and I already get it from the discussions. You have already got it, and you are doing fabulous work. In terms of talks, in terms of discussions, and it's a long life. You have made movies, you have gone through the process, you have respected the process, you have respected the interactions, um, you have thought about your work a lot. That is also important. You have thought about your work a lot. Pre-production, post-production, during the production, you have given importance to your work. You have critically, analyzed or thought about your work whenever it is needed, and that's the reason you can talk about it. That's the reason we can relate to stuff, and it's a life you are. Wanting to tell stories, you are wanting to make movies. That's why you are relating to things and you are coming up with things you have done in your life, and we can all relate to in a different way. Um, and that's the fun part, as professionals, as colleagues, as human beings, we can relate to it and we can relate to cinema. But again, talks and conversations, and there is cinema, and all the things, each and everything has their role to play. Glitz and glam, photography, fashion design, costumes, ornaments, jewelry, then your props, everything, set decoration, everything, architecture, Everything is there. Events, all these things are together coming to shape this industry. But that doesn't mean that cinema should be diluted. So cinema is something that is we should respect all the time. Storytelling, cinema, entertainment, business, art, craft, all these things. And you choose your way of storytelling, you choose your way of making a movie. But once you understand all these things, you understand all these things. Maybe you are not telling someone that, okay, you do this, okay, you do this, but when something happens, you can relate to it. Someone is wearing a good costume and you are having fun, experiencing that, relating that posture, how you are standing on the red carpet, how you are walking on the red carpet, all these things, part of personal expression, self expression, how you are expressing yourself. Because that is the reason, as an actor, you are doing something on screen in terms of acting, how you are looking at how you are walking on the red carpet, how you are dealing with the press, public, all these things. That's the reason, personal development, personal expression, self expression. Sometimes a photographer is capturing something, that photographer is capturing something else. That person is designing your costume in a different way, that person is designing your costume in a different way. Sometimes you're working on this movie, you're working on this movie, but you have all these things as a talent inside you. You need to nurture that, you need to work on it, you need to practice, you need to do in terms of physical exercises, in terms of mental exercises, in terms of different techniques. These are the things you should do. You will stretch yourself a lot. And that's in your toolbox. Whenever it's required, with the right director, with the right story, with the right situation, you can bring it back. And that is what we do actually. Right? So, Happy New Year. It's good to start with this, but we will talk about other discussions.